Hello. On behalf of the company Memmert, allow me to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining in our 2 days webinar on the vacuum ovens. The Memmert vacuum ovens are already in our product range since 20 years. So since 2018, we do the vacuum oven based on the latest technology. That means that we are using the approved controller of the generation 2018. Before going ahead and giving you more technical features and most favorable factors on the vacuum oven, please kindly let me allow you to introduce the team today. Today we have some support. There's Jenny from our marketing team. She is in charge of this webinar software, so she's a specialist in this software. Then we have Dominic. He is from our sales team, and he is doing the camera. And then there's also Francie. Francie is also from our sales team, and Francie is in charge of the chat function. This means if you have questions, please kindly write, and Francie, who is also product specialist, will be very glad to reply to you immediately. You can see this information in regard to the chat function right to this presentation, and also below this chat function, there is also a poll, because actually we are doing 2 polls during this seminar. And that means that here we also will ask questions, and we will be very glad if you give us your answers immediately. And I will be excited to see if you give the correct or wrong reply. Let's see how this works out. And so what is in regard to the agenda today? The agenda today is a presentation on the vacuum oven, and this is then followed by a live demonstration. Maybe you have been asking, why are we doing this presentation on vacuum oven? The reason is actually that we recently see a big demand, because there's a lot of researches going on, and that means researches in medical field, in the pharmaceutical field, but also in the electronics industry, and of course also environmental. There's a lot of researches going on, and this is just one area where a vacuum oven of Memmert can be used. So now, let me go on with the presentation for 45 minutes. I will be your speaker today. My name is Andrea. I'm in Memmert for a long period of time. So let's go ahead, and let me please kindly share to you some more information on our vacuum oven. And thank you again for being with us. Trust the best. So Memmert with powerful, gentle, and turbo-fast drying. That means that we have here some special features. We introduce you today that we really have a turbo-fast drying process for vacuum ovens, because we have a digital controlled pressure, which is possible, and you can do the ramping. So that means we have the cycling options, which is also today's the content of a seminar. When we talk about vacuum ovens, what does it actually mean, and for which purposes can this be used? A vacuum oven means that we have a chamber, and this chamber is airtight. So that means we go down in pressure, we take out the air, and whenever you reduce the pressure, it also means that the boiling temperature will be reduced. And that's what we also see here on the vapor pressure table. On this vapor pressure table, you will see here on the middle line the millibars mentioned, and you can see also here the Celsius degrees. And that means as lower as we go in pressure, as lower is the boiling temperature. And here we have at a pressure of approximately 50 millibar, a boiling point of water, which is approximately 33 degrees. That means it is really, really low. And now you can imagine for which application a vacuum oven is a very good choice. It is very good if you have heat-sensitive material, because then you can dry it in a gentle way at a low temperature. So that means you can use this for very sensitive material and loading. And furthermore, that is a second aspect, that is a drying process, which is mostly speeded up because you don't have to go up high in temperature, you go low. And please don't forget, vacuum oven is the only product where you can remove the water and volatiles completely. That is not possible with another oven or another product. So for gently drying of powder, vacuum oven is an excellent choice. And that is also for safe when you do the applying where heat might degrade the product because you don't have to go up so high. So that is also for safety reasons a good product when you do the drying processes. What do you think? We mentioned just the right pressure and let's say high pressure, low pressure. So let me ask you the first poll to awake everybody. And the question of my first poll is, what air pressure reveals on Mount Everest? Mount Everest, which is a mountain with 8,848 meters in height. There certainly is a different kind of pressure on it. So what do you think? What pressure is on the Mount Everest? Is it 325 millibar? Or maybe it is 300 millibar or 150 millibar? You have to imagine when you go to Mount Everest, maybe you woke up, you're excited and suddenly you can manage and you're on top of the peak and you would like to have a hard-boiled egg. Do you think it's possible that you can get a hard-boiled egg on top of the mountain of the Mount Everest? No, I really have to tell you that is not possible because we have here the yolk from the egg. And we have also, the white part from the egg, and they are not getting boiled at the same temperature. And that was now my question. What is the pressure on the Mount Everest? Because based on this pressure, we can reveal the temperature for boiling on the Mount Everest. So let me ask my colleague and see if she has already some of your replies. Okay, I got the answer that half of you gave the correct reply. So thank you, first of all, for joining in this poll. So the correct reply is 325 millibar. What does it mean? This means that at the Mount Everest, we have boiling of the egg, or let's say of the water, at 71 degrees. And that means if you consider now my question on the egg again, we have the yolk inside, which is the yellow part. Then we have this egg white, and there's different temperature for yolk. We have 65 degrees to get hardened, and for the egg white is 85 degrees. Mount Everest only has around 71, so you never get a very good hard-boiled egg on Mount Everest. I'm sorry. Okay, so that was the question and the information on the vapor pressure, which is really important point when we talk about the vacuum oven, because we reduce the pressure, which means that the air will be taken out of your loading. Let's go further. Let's have some information on the technical information on the vacuum oven. The vacuum oven, which is really a proven quality because it's for a long period of time in Memmert. So here we have done a further improvement, and now we use the vacuum oven based on the controller of the generation 2012, which is really now already established and has a lot of positive aspects. And really, it is for very intelligent use to go ahead with this controller. When you look up the picture, you can see we have a VO29, we have a VO49 and VO101. That is also the volume of the product itself. Then on top, you see the vacuum oven. And of course, when we talk about evaporation, what does it mean? We need a pump to take out this fume from the interior, so that takes out the air. So that means here we have then a pump housing and a pump and a subframe. If you consider this full segment, which means we have a vacuum oven with pump and housing and the subframe, then we have a correct size for the operation. So it's very nice for operate in this height. Then further, let's look to the temperature and pressure ranges. So temperature is from 5 to above ambient to 200 degrees. And we have a setting temperature 20 to 200 degrees. And you can set a pressure from 5 millibar to 1100 millibar. But now you say, I have now an application, but I need actually a little bit lower than 5 millibar. You will be lucky. It's also possible because we can set low on the vacuum oven, on the digital controller. So that means that it goes down as low as possible. And this depends on the pump which is going to be used. The pump we are offering here, you can go down to 2 millibar. So that means you set on your vacuum oven low. Then it goes down to 2 millibar. And this 2 millibar, this actual pressure is then also visible on the controller. So that means you set low, but actually you can read the pressure which is reached in an actual way in 1 millibar, starting from 1 millibar. So that depends on the performance on the pump you are using. And of course, it's always digitally, automatically controlled. Just that is very easy for operation. So that means it automatically goes down in the pressure. You don't have to open a valve because we have here magnetic valves which are automatically controlled. Let's go further to the next one. That is now a very interesting point, and that is also really outstanding from the Memmert vacuum oven. The Memmert vacuum oven heating system. I mentioned when we go for vacuum, then we take out the air from the interior. But you have to think, how can there be a heat transfer if there is no heat in the chamber? That's why we do it differently. So we have the shelf, then we have a large heating on the shelf, and we heat up the shelf directly. So that means we have a direct contact heating from the shelf to the loading, which means that is very, very fast and quickly going up to the loading. That's what you also can see on the right side. So that means we have here a silicone heating mat. This is all over the shelf. Then we have here at the rear the connections, of course, because there's also a sensor on each shelf. And then we have here the controlling and the good heat transfer directly on the shelf. And that is when you compare with another, let's say, heating system. Let's think about heating up only the sides of an oven. If you heat up the sides of an oven, how can the heat come to the shelf directly to the loading, which is placed on the shelf? So that is the difference. So we have directly heating, large heating on the shelf, and even we do the controlling of each shelf. So you think, what does it mean? We do controlling of each shelf. You have to think of the loading, the samples. Let's say we put different loadings on the shelf. One is maybe small, the other one tall. What does it mean? There's a different humidity content in the sample. And when we do the evaporation, then it means the humidity is taken out. And you know, evaporation chill. So we have to talk about evaporation chill. And that means when you take out the humidity and there's one sample more wet than the other one, you take out more of the humidity. There is evaporation chill. Then this must be controlled stronger. And that means we have this different controlling of the specific shelves. So short heating up time and overall process times, that is also included because we have directly heating on the shelf. And furthermore, we have calibration of each shelf, which is also outstanding of the Memmert products. So each shelf can be calibrated individually, separately by using our Atmo Control software, which is included in the delivery when you get a vacuum oven. Let's go further. I just talked about the shelves. When we talk about the shelves, please also have in mind, we have two different types. The one is aluminium and the other one is stainless steel. Aluminium is always the shelf you're using for the best heat distribution directly on the shelf, because in a vacuum oven, we cannot measure the heat distribution in the chamber because there's no air. So we measure it directly on the shelf. For these reasons, we have the aluminium shelf, and furthermore, we have a stainless steel shelf. That is in order, if we have some chemical resistance, let's say, to think about this point. So to avoid oxidation, chemical resistance, then we can also use these stainless steel shelves. When we look now up to this thermal image, then you will see here in the interior we have light color, so it's orange, it's getting to red. So that means we have here a very good heat distribution. And if you see the random on the shelf which is getting lilac, that means here it's getting colder. Why? Of course, because here we have the contact to the chamber, and that means here the air goes to the environment. And that means here we have the difficulty that there is colder, and that's why we have this advantage of the directly heated up shelves. That means directly heating up the loading, direct contact, and not from the outside, from the, let's say, chamber to the shelf, which will take much, much longer time. You have here some technical data on the deviation. So deviation is mentioned in plus minus K. K is actually Kelvin, and it actually means the same like Celsius. So here we have measured with an aluminium thermal shelf at 20 millibar, and we have here very good deviation. For example, you can see that at 100 degrees for the different vacuum sizes. Good, let's go further. Further on some technical data, we have here the PMP29, PMP49, PMP101. What is this? This is a housing including the pump. So we call it a pump module. And the advantage of this pump module is also, you know, we are using a pump which is chemical resistant membrane pump. Everybody who has already used a membrane pump knows lifetime is always a matter of that word. And a second point is always to keep the performance in case there is condensed on the membrane. So with our PMP model, it means there comes automatically a, let's say, signal, is a pump signal. And in case the performance is reduced from the membrane pump, then there comes the signal, then there will a valve be opened, air goes over the membrane and takes out this air, and this condensed air is condensed water. And that means we always guarantee the good performance of the pump. And further, we have here the pump, which is chemical resistant. And this is a automatic, let's say, the brushless speed controlled vacuum pump for more efficiency. And this is also noise insulating. So we have this chemical resistant diaphragmatic pump, which is energy efficient, and that is also speed controlled vacuum pump. So that is also a novelty. And that is also, when we look up to the next file, giving this further, let's say, good solutions when you operate with the membrane pump. Because what happens when you use a membrane pump? You normally have the membrane brand working at 100%, or let's say it's switch off whenever the pressure is reached. That is possible when you use the Memmert PMP model type. Then it means automatically there will be also switched off the pump whenever the pressure is reached, and it will automatically switch on. But additionally now, we have this speed control pump, which means that the speed control pump is adjusted in small steps. It is not always running at 100 degrees. So it is a demand-oriented pump which is going to be used. This pump is from the company K&F. So we have done here this solution with our vacuum oven. And what does it mean if it's demand-oriented? It means we have even a longer lifetime. So that is a very important point of this pump. Longer lifetime, but also, of course, considering the noise that is very low. So here we have some positive aspects. Considering the pump capacity at ATM pressure, that is 50 norm liter per minute. That means 3 square meter per hour. So in total, we have here 70% energy saving compared to a conventional vacuum pump in ramp operation. And that means, please kindly note, on our vacuum oven, you can do ramping. So we have the digitally controlled ramping for pressure up and down. And we have here additionally then also the speed controlled pump. And that means by these combinations, we have 70% energy saving compared to a conventional vacuum pump when we operate in the ramp operation. I just mentioned ramp operation. Let's have a look a little bit closer what this ramp operation actually means. Ramp operation means that we can set different temperature ranges, and we can set also different pressure ranges. So we can go down in steps by the pressure. So it is intuitive programming of different temperature and vacuum set points. And that is possible when you use our Atomo control software, which comes along with the vacuum oven, is included in the standard delivery display. So it's very, very easy to do a set profile, and you do this different setting of temperature values and pressure values. This is, for example, requested. You know, a drying of powder is not so easy, but if you have a large amount of powder, how can you dry it? For this purposes, to go down in pressure and up again and down is a very good way, because whenever you go up in pressure, it means that in short intervals, air comes into the chamber. If you go down again, it will be pulled out, and then you have a very good result for your drying process. So, software Atmo Control, you can do this very nice programming. Furthermore, you have the advantage that we have here the storage of all data every minute. And you can also have your protocol data, which is also very important. And of course, display of all logged and actual data and archiving of RAMs and program segments. Let's go to the next one. So here we have a closer look to this RAM function, which is really outstanding from Memmert. So that means you can go high and low in pressure, and this is automatically then controlled. So that means we have the digital temperature control and the digital pressure control to be able to program defined temperature pressure cycles. We can see this on this picture. So you see here set a high pressure, then it goes down, it goes up again, and this automatically is done. And why should we do it? This means it is highly precise vacuum setting, and that is really for the applications where you need a very fast drying process, because by this process, setting high and low pressures, you can speed up the drying process. So that means this is for very special professional uses to go ahead for the Memmert vacuum oven with this digitally controlled pressure in the ramp operation. So, I talked about this ramping, what we can do, go up and down in pressure. Now there comes a second aspect. That means these drying purposes even can be speeded up when we use inert gas. When we use an inert gas, we can even do faster drying and also avoid oxidation. So my next question is, which of the following gases is mostly used for drying processes? What do you think? Is it argon or is it nitrogen? I will wait for some seconds for your reply, and I will give some information a little bit about these gases. So nitrogen, what is this? Nitrogen is actually colorless, it is odorless, and nitrogen can be found to 78% on the atmosphere. So when we talk about argon, also available, so this comes after oxygen and after nitrogen. Then we also have argon, which is available, which is a noble gas. So what do you think? If you really would like to dry in a very fast speed, which of the gases, of these inert gases, is then the best choice? Is it the argon or is it nitrogen? Let me ask my colleague. Wow, nearly 90%. So thank you very much for your fast reply. So you are right, it is nitrogen. It is nitrogen because that is widely used. It is dry and non-combustible, displaces moisture and oxygen and creates a more stable climate. So it is significantly to reduce also the risk of oxidation, as already mentioned. And why is it mostly used? Because it is cheaper than argon, much, much cheaper. Okay, let's go further. When we look up this turbo drying process, how does it actually mean? This means when we go down in pressure, what we can see here on the left image chart, then we do the evaporation, and you can see here at 100 millibar, the evaporation starts. Why does it start here? Because on the right side, we see a temperature setting, which is below 50 degrees. And actually, I can tell you, if you work around 100 millibar, then water is evaporating at around 46 millibar. So here, already at 100 millibar, the evaporation process starts. And then it means here we take out in a fast way the humidity, and then when we go up again in the pressure and air enters, that means the vaporized water is sucked up like on a sponge. And that is what we see on this blue line. So that is how this is working and how this digitally controlled program RAMs are efficiently used in our Memmert vacuum oven. So that is really a big advantage for very fast drying processes. This feature with nitrogen, by the way, that is a premium module version. So that is an option that you can operate a vacuum oven with this inert gas. And now a next feature, which is also mostly adventurous for most professional uses, you can do this calibration of each thermoshelves. That means we have the Atomo Control software. On the Atomo Control software, that is also what you see on the screen on the picture, we have here the possibility to choose the shelves. And that means we do the calibration based on the plugs from the shelf which are placed inside. And then we do the calibration at 3 different temperatures in a very good way. You can ask here also the service teams which are worldwide available. So we do business with our dealers, and we have also subsidiaries worldwide. So you can also ask here for special support. And that means we can do here the calibration of the temperature, and this is for each of the plug inside. So just consider when you do this calibration, always put in the shelf to the direct position. Don't change it. But as mentioned, the most advantage is here that we can do the calibration of each shelf individually by using the Atomo Control software. If you do the calibration, please kindly consider, of course, we cannot place any sensor in the chamber. We have to put the sensor on the tray directly. And for this reason, we also have special flat sensors. Next one. Let's go on to some applications. As I already mentioned, in a pharmaceutical industry, a vacuum oven is mostly used. That is for drying purposes of powder and granulate, but also for the determination of water content for quality assurance. Here, I would like to give you an example of the gel capsules. The gel capsules must be, let's say, have a certain softness. Otherwise, you cannot use it. And that means here there is some certain rules and regulation available. And that is, for example, standard 731 from US Pharmacopoeia or USP 921. And here there is mentioned about the moisture content. And that means to have a convenient dry and moisture content below 13 to 16%, a vacuum oven is needed. That is not possible to be done with any other product. Let's go further. So medical technology. We have here drying of titanium powder for orthopedic materials. Let's talk here about implants, for example. What does it mean? We need a high grade purity of this titanium powder. And that means here we have to do some special processes. And first of all, we have to add hydrogen, and then we can do our grinding process and do this crushing. And that means by this way, there will be some small parts and there will be some ferromagnetic parts. And this will have to be taken out because we need high purity of this titanium powder when we go into the medical field. And for this reason, there's used a vacuum oven, and here there will be done the drying after after they have been put hydrogen on it. So that means here is used the vacuum oven for getting a very high purity titanium powder. Or a food industry, that is really interesting. You know, if there's a lot of, let's say, humidity in a food, then we don't have a long shelf life. So that means it is always when you're in production of food point, you have to consider what is my humidity level. And when we talk about food, but actually also in pharmaceutical, we always talk about water, what is included in these products. So that means here to avoid that the product gets spoiled in order to get a longer lifetime, then we do this preservation and dehydration of food. And that means the moisture have to be taken out because the moisture is support for microbial activities. So drying removes the water needed for bacteria, yeast, molds to grow. So that is why in food industry is a very, very good way. He has also mentioned about drying of cultures and probiotics. That will be done at very low temperature. And here I also would like to mention that Memmert has customized solution department, and here we do a vacuum oven even, which is called vacuum cool, with lower temperature. And of course, not to forget to mention about electronics industry, which is also a very, very important industry where you can find a lot of applications. There is drying of components and printing circuit boards, of course, because we can dry it very gently, very soft, but also, as we know, time is money, and that means for speeding up the drying processes, there is going to be used the vacuum oven, and here also Memmert vacuum oven, because we have this digitally controlled pressure, and we have the possibility of working here with these ramps. Okay, what is then to be considered when you go for a vacuum oven? What is important? Like mentioned, it should be gentle and turbo fast. It should be intelligent direct heating and a calibration function. It should have short heating up times, enormous energy saving due to stepless adjustable speed control pump, and short process times thanks to digitally controlled vacuum cycles. And all of these factors, this can definitely be fulfilled with our Memmert vacuum oven. And that's why we are very successful with our Memmert vacuum oven with this specific technology. Now, let me go on with a live demonstration because we are very lucky that we have a model here. And let me explain you more details and information on the vacuum oven. Vacuum oven, as already mentioned, we have here the controller of the generation 2012. So here we can do the temperature setting. So we go up in temperature whenever it's set. We just press it. So it's very intuitive, very easy for controlling. When you look very closely, you can see we have here 4 different information on the temperature on the shelf. That actually refers to the temperature of each shelf. So you see the actual temperature on each shelf. That is a heating symbol. We have a timer setting. So that means you can start your process immediately and it will count downwards. And mostly important when we talk about vacuum oven, it is the setting of temperature and the setting of pressure. You can go here into the pressure and you can go down in the pressure. Like mentioned, you can go down up to 5 millibar, or it can also set low. Here, when you look very, very clearly and closely, you see in one. That means this is the operation with air. If we would like to operate with inert gas, and the unit has this premium model, we can go under menu. Under the menu, we have a setup, and in this setup, you see here inert gas inlet. So we are already here in the setup. There's some interesting information. So one is IP address. That is also here timer mode. What does it mean? That means we can connect here a laptop. Then we can read out the data from the vacuum oven because the data are stored every minute. So that means you have an SD card and you will get out all the data. If we want to do this, please kindly don't forget in the beginning to set the correct time and also the time zone, because here in Germany and worldwide we have different times. So always start with time zone and then change the date and time. And based on this information and based on this data, that will be done the protocol data. There will be done the storing of the data. Okay, so I talked also about the setup about this timer mode, which means set point wait function. That is a function we have in all our products. So that means whenever pressure, let's say temperature is reached, then it starts with operation. Furthermore, we have here on the right side the possibility to work manually or to start a program. So that means we set a program when we use our computer and the Atomo control software. We can upload the program and then we can choose it and we can start our program directly on the unit. Of course, we have safety features. So we have an over temperature alarm, an under temperature alarm, and the same also for pressure. That is when you go here, you can see here temperature. So that means here we have pressure and we can set low or we can set maximum and minimum pressure alarm for our vacuum ovens. Graphical display is also a good idea. Graphical display means if you want to see how did the vacuum oven run within the last couple of days, you can go under the graphical display and it shows you an information how the unit had been running during the last couple of days. So it's all included in standard. When we go under this menu, let me also briefly mention what we can find here as well. We can see here protocol. So that means either you connect it to your laptop, you read out the data, or you use a USB pen drive. Then you can also get the data from the vacuum oven for your protocoling. So it's also a possibility. And that is all included in the standard. We have here the user ID. That is an option, an additional safety feature. That means in case you don't want that anybody is changing the parameter set, then you can go for a user ID pen drive because it's a safety and you cannot change any data. So it's blocking the changing of any parameters. We have an acoustical alarm also here additionally. And here we have the programming to mention. If we have uploaded some programs, and here you can upload really a lot of programs, you can give your program a name, then you select it here, you press it, and then you go further, and here you can then start your program. So that is all in information about this very nice, intuitive controller of generation 2012 for the vacuum oven VO. Let's go further. Let's have a look to the interior. What do you have to consider? We go down in pressure. What happens if we go down in pressure? There's a lot of pressure actually on the door. So we have a spring-loaded door and a safety door. So that means we have a special door because you have to consider that there's more than 1 ton on the door when you go down in pressure. Then we have here different shelves. You can see here aluminum trays and you can see stainless steel trays. Let me take out one of these ones. If we look up here, we can see 4 pins and 3 pins. 4 pins, which is PT100 sensor for wire measurement in class A. That is what we always are using. And that is for the electricity. And then means there's also a sensor on it. So we can take it out and we can place it in again. and we can control it individually. All, of course, is stainless steel, and because there's more pressure, so we even use here a higher grade of stainless steel for the interior chamber and for the tubings. Then let's have a look to this pump. That is a housing of the pump module. We open it, this one. Then we have here a chemical resistant pump brushless, speed controlled. And we have here the condensed, let's say, vessel. So here the condensed water will be collected and it can be taken out and can also be emptied. Now I will be very strong and I will change around this unit so you can also have a look to the rear. What can we see at the rear? We see here the signal cable from the vacuum to the PMP. That means automatically there will be these purge processes. That means in case that the performance of the pump is reduced because there's condensation on the membrane, automatically there comes a signal. Then air will go through this one and will pull out or push out the air on the membrane. And then we always have a good performance of the pump, always automatically switching on and off the pump. That is why we have this signal cable. On the other side, we see here's a connection for inert, for air and also for inert gas. So here you can operate with inert gas. That means we have here the premium module. And here we have the connection to the pump. So it's the tubing for pump connection with the housing. And in case you want to have an exhaust, can also be connected. That was all with regard to the vacuum oven. That is also the interface, not to forget. So we have an Ethernet interface for the vacuum oven. And let me just turn around this unit again. So just briefly to mention again, this is our vacuum oven, which is based on the premium model. So that is why we have the full sockets with the shelf in the interior. And that was actually all in regard to the vacuum oven. So I would like to thank you so much for joining in our 2 days presentation, and I hope you could get some more and new information about that one. You can also download then a flyer which is online. And I would like to thank you again for being with us today. I wish you healthy and safe. And have a very nice day. And thank you so much for being with us here in Memmert, Germany. The whole Memmert family would like to say goodbye to you. Thanks a lot.